Hey everyone, welcome back to Champion the Passion, a weekly pro wrestling podcast where we inspire you to champion your passions and celebrate the joy of what you love. I'm your host, my name is Victoria Daisy, and today we are going to be recapping everything that happened last night on Friday Night Smackdown. But before we dive deeper, don't forget to follow me at Victoria Daisy across all social platforms, follow Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms, and leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed. But let's dive deep because the opening segment was a little in-ring interview, if you will, with Cody Rhodes. This was the opening segment. Now, to be honest, I think other segments could have opened the show, but, just personal opinions. So Joe Tessitore gets into the ring with Cody Rhodes and basically asks him how he's feeling about tomorrow night, aka tonight, for Saturday night's main event. We know he has a contract signing with Kevin Owens for their match at the Royal Rumble, moderated by the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels. And Cody says he has no problem handing over the title to Shawn Michaels and he trusts him. Cody says Kevin is a once-in-a-generation superstar, but says what hurts is that Kevin chooses the easy way out. Cody is such a vet, first of all, and is so good at what he does. He knows how to work the crowd so well and is such a great babyface. I mean, when you look at the blueprint of how to cut a promo or how to be a good babyface, I mean, he is there. He is the blueprint. People like him, I feel like Sami Zayn is in that category. They just know how to work the crowd so well in such an effortless way, and it's really iconic, and I really love that for them. So then Cody says, and this is a direct quote from him, he says, "Be reminded that I am the one who defeated the ring general Gunther. I'm the one who defeated the greatest champion of my era, Roman Reigns, and I am the quarterback of this division." And when he said that, that's a phrase they've used for a while, how Cody is the quarterback of WWE, of the men's division. I really do love that analogy because it is the truth. Cody is the quarterback. He is the head man since 2022 when he returned. I mean, it was probably one of the biggest returns that we had seen in a while. And ever since then, he has been on the mountaintop. Like he said, beating the ring general Gunther, beating the greatest champion of this era, Roman Reigns. I mean, somebody who was champion for, I don't even know how many days. He was champion for like 4 years. What, like 2,000 days? I don't even know math, clearly. But I love that Cody is on top. And I know a big topic of conversation, especially heading into, the new year, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania season, is who is going to take the title from Cody? I mean, Cody had a 2-year buildup to him just winning the title. And he's had the title for what? Half a year now? Maybe we're inching a year. And, one of my hot takes is the fact that I think the buildup to his title reign is 1,000 times better than the actual title reign. Obviously, there are so many people that could beat him for the title, but because of how meaningful this reign is, I don't want it to just be anybody. That's why I don't think it's just going to be a Kevin Owens, a Sami Zayn. I think it has to be a big name. It has to be a Randy Orton, a John Cena, a Rock, somebody in that nature, because there's just no possible way that Cody is losing the title to just any random Joe. And I don't want to make it sound like everybody's just a random Joe, because there's so many great talents that definitely do deserve that title, but right now is not their time. Okay. And then we transition into a Motor City Machine Guns versus Pretty Deadly match. Now, this was a good match. Okay. I wouldn't say it was great. You guys know, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, or if you follow me on social media, you know how much I love the Motor City Machine Guns. Okay, I praise them every single week because they are truly just so incredible. They are fun. They are exciting. They show me fresh and new moves every single week, and that keeps me in the loop with them. That makes me want to keep watching them because it's a breath of fresh air when I watch them wrestle, and it's just so amazing. And I honestly, like I said, I really liked the match. One thing I do need to say, though, is Pretty Deadly is a very good tag team, okay? They're very good. But I don't know if anyone is really going to agree with this, but I think they need to rebrand. Okay, I think they need a new gimmick. I don't think this is sticking at all. When they came out, there was absolutely negative zero reaction from the crowd. And, something that they always say in wrestling is like, you want a reaction, whether it's good or bad, because then that means they're being receptive to you. And if you get nothing, that's bad. And so, them not having any sort of reaction is bad. And they're like I said, they're talented, but they just need a different gimmick. This isn't working. This worked in NXT a year 2 years ago, but it's not working on the main roster. It's not working now. I can't even take them seriously, and it sucks, but in the end, of course, the Motor City Machine Guns won, and this win actually marks their third win in a row, which is beyond me. So now they are the number one contenders for DIY's tag team championships. Now, if you guys, again, have been following the pod for a while and have been following me on social media, you know that DIY is like my number one all-time favorite tag team. Very close second, Motor City Machine Guns. And so the fact that now there's going to be a match between them is going to be iconic. Now that the location of that match will be announced later in the show, and we'll get to that soon. But let's move right along to a Nick Aldis and Miz backstage segment. Now, Nick Aldis had quite a few backstage segments last night with a few different talents, and usually I'm like, okay, why do we have to keep seeing this? But low-key cooked. So Nick announced that the Miz is officially part of the SmackDown brand, and Miz then realizes that the Wyatt Six are also, they just moved to SmackDown, so they're also there. And then he said he strategically planned for him and the Wyatt Six to be on separate shows. Obviously, he got them moved to SmackDown so he could stay on Raw and be separated from the drama with the Wyatt Six. And then he finally comes to the realization that this was Karrion Kross's doing. I mean, we've seen Karrion Kross pop up backstage at SmackDown, creeping in the background, even on Raw as well. And Nick Aldis said, and I quote, "I suggest you make some new friends." So this is going to be interesting. What does this mean for The Miz? What does this mean for Karrion Kross, the Wyatt Six, that whole storyline? I'm very intrigued. It seems that this is far from over. And now being on SmackDown, it gives them a different platform to expand their story, which is going to be so interesting. I mean, I know we were so excited when the Wyatt Six came. I know I was, growing up, a huge Wyatt family and Bray Wyatt fan. This was just everything to me. I mean, I remember crying when they debuted, because I just knew that even though it was spooky, that wasn't even like coming across my mind. It was just the fact that, like, Bo Dallas or Uncle Howdy, whatever, got to carry on his brother's legacy in such a beautiful way. And I just thought it was so cool. And now, let's be for real, they're getting a little stale. We haven't seen them on TV in a minute, and I'm not super happy with how they booked them, or how they have been booking them. So hopefully with them being on SmackDown, there's new opportunities for fresh new opponents, matches, storylines. Obviously Miz and Karrion have followed them to SmackDown. Well, kind of the other way around, but and it's going to be interesting. I'm intrigued. So after that, we had a Kevin Owens segment. Now, this was pretty funny. They made it seem like it wasn't planned. So Kevin Owens basically comes out, and if you guys know where the commentary table is, to the right-hand side of that, where Lillian Garcia sits, like the ring announcer, where just some crew members sit in that little nook, he came through there, which I thought was interesting. He didn't even just come from the front. So he came out super mad, and he walked right up to Joe Tessitore, and he was so mad that Joe didn't interview him, which I think is so funny. And he basically starts going on a tangent, right? He says that Cody uses people and then betrays them. He said that at the Royal Rumble, he's going to prove to everyone that he is the rightful, truthful champion. Something I thought was super funny is the fact that Matthew McConaughey was literally front row at the show. Love that he went with I think his family, and quite a few WWE legends were there as well, which was super awesome because it was a great show. So glad they got to see that. But Matthew McConaughey was right behind the commentary table, and first of all, his reactions all night was hysterical. So Kevin basically had a bit with Matthew the entire time, and it was so funny. So Kevin calls out Matthew McConaughey, and Matthew is being a Cody crybaby, okay? He's like, no, like, you suck, all this stuff. Like, just like being playful and whatever. And Kevin Kevin decides to clock him. He said, I'm glad that Ohio State beat your Texas Longhorns. And first of all, as a Michigan fan, I do not like that because I hate Ohio State. But in the grand scheme of things, he clocked him and it was really funny. And the crowd popped. It was a fun time. Okay. It was a fun time. And that little jab was just everything. And yeah, it was just a fun little bit that carried on throughout the night into the main event. And then Jimmy Uso interrupts and Kevin was confused why Jimmy came out. And Jimmy grabbed the mic. He got in the ring and he simply said, because you talk too much. And then literally gave him a super kick. It was hysterical. And then they brawled a little bit. And then Jimmy was like, okay, well, I want a match between you and myself. Let's make that happen. And then Nick Aldis made it happen. And speaking of Nick Aldis, like I said before, there was quite a few backstage segments with Nick Aldis. Now, this one is with Carmelo Hayes. Now, we love Carmelo Hayes, right? I think most of us do. You know, he's a king. And so I was a little confused what was about to happen. I was like, there's no way Carmelo Hayes is going to Raw. Like, there's just no way. But thankfully, he's staying put. Nick Aldis says to Melo that he had just finished another talent acquisition, and Melo's trying to act all big and tough, like, bring him to me. I can take whoever it is. And to be honest, at first, like, my initial reaction was, okay, it's not going to be anybody interesting. But then I thought, you know what? Let's let my delusions run wild. What if it's a big star from Raw? So Nick says that Melo would be this mystery guy's first opponent, right? Because Melo decides to act all big and tough. And Melo was, you know, big and brave. And he's like, whatever. So then they go into a women's tag team match that I will talk about after this segment. But then after that match, they went back into the segment, if that makes sense. If you watch SmackDown, you get what I'm saying. So then we find out who the mystery person is. And oh my God, that was not who I was expecting to walk through those doors. Damian Priest. Oh my God, Damian Priest walks through those doors. And Melo looks like he was about to crap himself. It was hysterical. He probably was thinking, I don't know, Akira Tozawa, somebody of that nature. You know, somebody who's not that big of a threat. And then literal Damian Priest walks in. And I was just not expecting that. Gag of the century. Okay, gag of the freaking century. That was the last thing I was expecting. So for sure, shocker, but very excited for this new chapter for Damian. You know, he's going to have fresh new feuds, matches, and storylines in 2025 that I think are so well deserved. My Terror Twin heart is hurting though, because they split up Damian and Rhea, and like, how dare they? Now they haven't been working together like as much recently, so it's like, it's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world, but like having them separated is so sad. But overall, very happy for Damian and excited that SmackDown is getting even bigger stars. You know, Raw is a show that is popping off right now. Raw is the it show. They are on Netflix. You know, there's just so many incredible talents over there. And I really didn't want SmackDown to get quote unquote left behind. And the reason I say that is because SmackDown has always looked at as lesser than. It's notoriously been the worst show out of the two. And that really sucks because I do love SmackDown. And, you know, I love SmackDown for the show. And in life reasons, you know, it's great to be finished with the work week and then get to enjoy SmackDown for 3 hours on a Friday night. Like, it's great, you know? And I really wanted it to be stuff that I'd enjoy. And after Raw this past week, if you guys watched my episode, I think it was like 3 episodes ago, when I recapped Raw from this week, I literally rated it a 5.5 out of 10. That's the lowest rating I've ever given to any show on this podcast. And so I had really low expectations for SmackDown this week. I was like, you know what? This is going to be garbage. Like, I literally thought to myself, this is going to be garbage. And thankfully it was not. I gave it a much higher rating than I ever anticipated. So great segment. So happy Damian is now on SmackDown. I just think there's so much for him in the future, especially on SmackDown. And then we go into the women's tag team match that I mentioned earlier. It was Chelsea Green and Piper Niven versus Michin and B-Fab. Now, it was an okay match. Nothing crazy. Besides Chelsea, I thought it was low-key a boring match, if I'm being honest. And I have a bone to pick with WWE. So Michin and BFAB won, and I think it is absolutely criminal. It's a poor move to have your champion lose. I mean, it does not make them look strong in any way, shape, or form, and I was very disappointed by that booking choice. And I don't know, I have not much to say about this match because it was that bad. Like, I'm being dead serious. It was that bad. All right, then we move into something I was not necessarily expecting. And that was a Charlotte Flair video package. Now, if you saw my episode for SmackDown last week, you would have heard that I was livid when I saw this because I was like, why in the world do they have to announce and spoil her Royal Rumble return literally 2 weeks before the Rumble? I was so livid. But I've had a bit of a change of heart. So let's discuss what happened. So, it was another hype video. She was doing like a voiceover throughout the majority of it, which was really nice. And the first thing that came to my head is, are we getting a new Charlotte Flair? That is literally what came to my head. Are we getting a new Charlotte Flair? In this video package, she's dressing different. She's talking different. And she's looking different. She has a different look to her. And, the way she's talking in this video was the real component to drive that, are we getting a new Charlotte Flair theory? She was talking in that video like a very calm, veteran champion who knows her worth. Not like the girl we used to see before she left, who was always trying to prove her worth and was this overconfident, but like in a bit of a phony way type of girl. Now we see a calm, cool, collected, confident, humble veteran champion, if you will. And I don't know, I thought I was a bit interesting. Now, of course, she could never leave the queen gimmick, right? That is her. She is her. And I'm definitely intrigued to see, in my opinion, she's a heel. Somebody like Alexa Bliss, she's a heel. Like, those are roles that fit them best. I think Charlotte is a heel through and through. She can be a babyface, but it's not really like my favorite. I don't think we all really like to see her a babyface. And one observation that I had from last week and this week, I wasn't going to say it last week because I was like, maybe it's not that big of a deal. But then they did it again this week. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's a big deal. So 2 weeks in a row, Charlotte's video package has been playing right before a Tiffany Stratton segment, okay? We've all suspected this dream Royal or WrestleMania match, right? Between Charlotte and Tiffany. Tiffany is known as the baby Charlotte, right? The little Charlotte, her mini-me. And they've met before, which is so cool backstage, at shows and whatnot. But we've all wanted to see that match. Tiffany's finisher is prettiest moonsault ever. And, Charlotte's finisher is, or one of her core moves is a literal moonsault. And there's just a lot of similarities between the two, right? And it's just been a dream match. So I think they're planting the seed of Charlotte versus Tiffany. Now, I'm not saying Charlotte's going to win the Royal Rumble. That's a different conversation for a different day. But I find it very interesting how the last 2 weeks, Tiffany has had a segment, and right before that segment, they played the Charlotte video. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but basically in the video, Charlotte declares for the Royal Rumble, and that was so exciting. When she said that, I very much popped, okay? Because you guys know that I'm going to the Royal Rumble next week. And I get to see the Queen's return. Hello. And it's like, okay, so at first I hated that they announced that she was going to return. Okay. I was livid. But with the way they've continued to tease her, I actually kind of love it. It basically builds hype for the show, especially not knowing what number she's going to come out. Now, I have a feeling she's probably going to come out towards the end. Maybe she is number 30. Actually, no, because I feel like number 30 then is predictable. Like, then we know for sure as we get closer. I don't really know what they're going to do, but I'm very excited. I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm so happy to have the Queen back. I think, she is greatly missed. We were doing great without her, but I think we're going to do even better with her. And I have always, to be honest and transparent with you guys, I've always been an off and on Charlotte fan, okay? I grew up during, when I was little, I grew up mostly in the Divas era, okay? AJ Lee, Nikki Bella, Paige, Alicia Fox, Natalia, things like that. Naomi. And then when I was, how old was I during the Four Horsewomen era? I don't even remember. whatever. That was another part of my growing up, was the Four Horsewomen era. And if you guys know me, you know Sasha Banks, Mercedes Moné. She is my number one all-time favorite wrestler. You guys know I love Rhea Ripley, but nothing compares to Mercedes. So that's where my love for Mercedes came from, was being able to grow up in real time with the Four Horsewomen. And but with Charlotte, it's really interesting because I had a lot of resentment towards her for a long time because, you know, she was always looked at as the better of the Four Horsemen, and that included Mercedes. So I was like, no, nobody's better than Sasha, whatever. And yeah, that's kind of where a lot of the resentment lied. And then I think, what was it, WrestleMania 32, when there was a triple threat match. It was the first ever time that the three of them, Becky, Sasha, Charlotte, wrestled at WrestleMania, and it was for the brand new inaugural WWE Women's Championship when they were laying down to rest the Divas Championship. And Charlotte literally went from being Divas Champion to inaugural Women's Champion. And I remember being so pissed because I was like, Sasha should have won that. I have a funny story. I've told it many times, but when I was younger, I was watching that match. We had to get together with family for WrestleMania, as we do every year, and I started bawling my eyes out right after that match because I love Sasha. I love Mercedes. Same human. And I was so pissed that she didn't win. And, you know, whatever. There's been resentment build up from or for Charlotte for a very long time, but I go through seasons where I like her and I don't like her. Right now I do like her because I haven't had her in a while. So, you know, kind of just miss her. Whatever. So then we get into a women's segment, kind of where I mentioned Tiffany Stratton. So at first I thought this was just a Tiffany Stratton segment until the floodgates opened. Okay, so Tiffany Stratton comes out and she cuts a little promo about whoever wins the Royal Rumble. She's ready to face them for her championship, and basically she's just making it seem like she's the only champion in the company. And then the unthinkable happens. Okay, I'm being dramatic, but like, you know, when somebody from a different brand comes over, it's like low-key a jump scare, and my queen came out, Rhea Ripley. Okay, so Rhea Ripley comes out to remind Tiffany Stratton that she is also a champion, and people also have their eyes on her. And so having my two queens in the ring at the same time, like the amount of pictures I took of my TV and pictures I downloaded from Twitter was like absurd, because I love Tiffany. I love Rhea. Those are my girls. Those are my queens. I stand them for life. And so having that moment, if you guys follow them, you know, they've been calling them, they've been called, not each other, but like as champions, they call each other Strapley. Like that's their like team name. Not that they're a team. Oh my God, I'm making no sense. But if you follow them, you know. And so if you're part of my Instagram broadcast channel, which if you aren't, you definitely should. If you go to my Instagram, right above, I think the message button or like the follow button, that little bar where it's like message, follow, email, right above it, there is a tab where you can join my broadcast channel. It's called Professional Yappers. And I am so active in there. I've been doing it since the beginning of the year, and every day I'm like always writing in there. I post, every time I have a new podcast episode, I post all the links. And during shows, there's a lot of interactive things that go on. I share my reactions to things. I talk about things. I'm gagging about things. And last night was no exception. I was quite literally, I'm not going to repeat what I said in there. Not that it was anything bad, but you know, if you want to find out my reaction in real time, then you can go there. It's not like any subscription situation. You just join it and it adds on your DM chat list thing, whatever. Anyways, so Rhea said, champion to champion, I respect what you did to Nia Jax, but it's not going to compare what I'm going to do to her at Saturday night's main event. Let's not forget that Rhea and Nia have a match tonight at Saturday night's main event for Rhea's title. Now, obviously, if you saw my predictions video yesterday, you know that I hardcore believe that Rhea's literally not losing that title. There's literally no chance. Then, of course, say her name and she appears. Not Joe Hendry, Nia Jax. Nia Jax and Candice LeRae come out, and Nia is such a good heel. Okay, she's an icon. We stan her. Okay, so basically, Nia's yapping, and inevitably, Nia declares for the Royal Rumble. One thing I thought was interesting is that Candice didn't, but whatever, I don't really care. So she said that she's going to beat Rhea, and then she's going to beat Tiffy for both of their titles. And I'm like, queen, you are delusional. You're a queen, but you're delusional. And then, of course, this is what I mean by the floodgates open. More people keep coming. So Bianca Belair and Naomi come out. So they thought they got invited, apparently, because then they both came out to declare for the Royal Rumble. And they said nobody will beat them. And they're basically just talking a bunch of crap. And then Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez come out. And it really just feels like everybody from every brand is just coming, minus NXT. Everyone's just coming. But let me just say, Liv absolutely cooked. Okay, she clocked with this. I'm going to read a quote from her from when she was coming out. She said, "Look what we have here. The girl that lost her man to a real woman. That's you, Rhea." She said that. I was hysterically laughing. But it gets better. Then she says, "Then we have the wannabe Liv Morgan doppelganger holding the title that would look better on me. That's you, Tiffy." And then she said, "Then we have a ring full of women all declaring themselves for the 2025 Women's Royal Rumble match. But I don't care because the headline news isn't going to be about any of you. It's all going to be about me." So then Liv and Raquel both declare for the Rumble, and then they all break out into a brawl. And that was pretty much the end of that segment, which led into a tag team match. Rhea Ripley, Naomi, and Bianca Belair teamed up against Nia Jax, Candice LeRae, and Liv Morgan. And oh my God, this was a fantastic match. Literal cinema. I was obsessed. So even though it was low-key pointless, like there was really no point to the match, but like whatever, I'll take it. It was iconic to see all my faves together. It was still fun. Okay. I also enjoyed seeing all the intertwining storylines, which is a trend that I've noticed reoccurring a lot in this Triple H era. It's something I've talked about on my podcast, on my YouTube channel, on my social media platforms for a very long time. It's something that Triple H has been doing for a while that I really like. And I just felt like every woman had a great showcase. And if you're wondering what I mean by like intertwining stories, I mean like, you know, you had Rhea and Liv, you had Rhea and Nia, you have Tiffany and Nia, like all these little storylines. Oh, you have Raquel and Raquel didn't wrestle, but whatever, her and Rhea, like you get what I mean. Like there's like different little storylines, and it was super entertaining and fun, and the crowd was so into it. It was great. Now, here's my issue: Nia Jax, Candice LeRae, and Liv Morgan won. And if you remember what I said earlier with the Chelsea Green match, Chelsea Green won. And you do not, under any circumstances, have your champion lose, especially when she has a title defense the freaking very next day. You do not have Rhea lose. So I don't know what they were on to make that decision. So way to ruin a perfect segment in a match. Because it was all going great right up until that moment. And that really just ruined it for me, and I hated it. But whatever. Moving on to another pointless match. No, I'm kidding. It wasn't pointless. There was story to this. Johnny Gargano versus Apollo Crews. Now, it was an okay match. Johnny shined, per usual. My king, we give him props. If you saw SmackDown's episode from, I believe, 2 weeks ago, you would know that I have my reservations about Apollo Crews, okay? And I just wish Johnny had a better opponent. You know, Johnny is such a good wrestler, and Apollo Crews does not compliment him at all. If you saw my Raw Netflix recap, I talked about how Chad Gable is such a seasoned vet, and Penta is such an incredible, unique, one-of-a-kind wrestler. And I was praising Chad Gable because I was like, you know what? He is the perfect person to have for a match like that, for somebody's debut, because he's able to still shine on his own, but not in an overshadowing way where you can still put the other person over. And I don't know if they were trying to do that with Apollo and Johnny, but Apollo was just not the guy to do it. Okay. It just didn't make sense. So then what ended up happening was Motor City Machine Guns came out to distract Johnny Gargano, and Apollo used that to his advantage and won the match. Now, if you see what's going on here, you'll catch the drift for later. So then we go into a very fun match: Tama Tonga versus LA Knight. What the heck? They low-key ate this match up, okay? I was not expecting the way they ate this up. So much more entertaining than I expected. And let me just say, Tama Tonga is such an underrated wrestler. It's not even funny. Like, I don't even care what anyone says. LA Knight, though, is a superstar. We know that. Actually, he's the mega star, okay? And he has... One thing I have to say, though, is he has skills, and he has the star power to become a champion. And I wish they would do more with him. Like, why is he settling for matches like this? Now, I don't want to make it sound like Tama Tonga is like garbage, because I just praised him. But like, he needs to have like bigger opportunities, and I would love for him to win the money in the bank. Did he win the Money in the Bank? I can't remember. I don't think so. Oh wait, did he? I don't remember. Someone tell me because I can't remember. But in the end, LA Knight won, and then Jacob Fatu was out there with Tama Tonga, and he immediately got his hands on LA Knight right after the match. And then, if you're following what's going on with the storyline, you would know what comes next. Braun Strowman comes out. Face to face, Strowman, Fatu. It was crazy. Now, you guys know tonight at Saturday night's main event, they have a match. And it's going to be insane. Definitely, they hyped up the match so well. The crowd was so into it. I was like on the edge of my seat. It was incredible. And then we go into another match, which low-key was a very close second for my match of the night, which obviously, you know, we talk about at the end of the show. And it was Damian Priest versus Carmelo Hayes. Now, I wasn't sure exactly how this match was going to go, but it was a pretty good match. Both of these talents are unique, and it was cool to see them wrestle for the first time. You know, they've never wrestled each other before, so I thought it was really cool. And it felt like a traditional battle between power and speed. That's something we've seen a lot recently on WWE TV, and I love it. Okay, it was a great showcase for both Melo and Damian. This was a great debut match for Damian on SmackDown. So happy for him, and in the end he won, which was great. And then we go to a very quick backstage segment. I don't even want to call it a segment. It was just super quick, with Nick Aldis, DIY, and the Motor City Machine Guns. And basically, they announced that at the Royal Rumble next week, there will be a 2 out of 3 falls match where DIY will be defending their WWE Tag Team Championships against the Motor City Machine Guns. Now, guys, they did this for me. They listened to my podcast. They did this for me. I don't care what anyone says. No, I'm kidding. But this made me so happy because you guys know these are my top 2 favorite tag teams, and I'm going to be there. So they literally said, let's cook for Victoria. I could not be more thankful and grateful. Now, does Motor City Machine Guns win back the titles? It's so hard because it's like, I hope they do. But, like, also I want DIY to retain. So, I don't know. It's hard. I feel like either way I win. Okay? Either way I win. We're just going to say that because it was fun. Then, there was another very small backstage segment between Damian Priest and Cody Rhodes, which I thought was like, okay. So, Cody interrupts Damian as he's just casually walking back to the locker room, you know, cooling down after his match. And he welcomes him to SmackDown. Now, I gotta say, there was a slightly weird vibe in the air between the two. Not in like a they hate each other kind of way. It was just like a little like, I don't know, it was interesting. And then Damian looked back at him and said, "See you soon, champ." And I was like, what? Excuse me? What do you mean? Okay, you guys know how strongly I feel about Damian's title reign previously with the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. It was criminally short. He got robbed, okay? That was what? 4 months? No. It was a few months after he cashed in at WrestleMania. And you're telling me he's still not champion to this day because of freaking Gunther? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So could we get a second wind or a shot at a second wind for Damian? You know, I'm not saying Damian's going to take the title off Cody, but in another world he could. So that has me very excited. But now let's move on into the main event of Friday Night Smackdown, Jimmy Uso versus Kevin Owens. Now, right before the match even started, Carmelo Hayes attacks Jimmy during his entrance, which led to a match next week on SmackDown that got later announced. So next week on Friday Night Smackdown, we got Carmelo Hayes versus Jimmy Uso. That's going to be an absolutely impeccable match. Cannot wait for that. Also, speaking about next week's SmackDown, I do want to let you guys know that I will not be having a podcast episode coming out next Saturday, which is usually my Friday Night Smackdown recap. That's not going to happen. I will be in Indianapolis, and Saturday, instead of filming, I will be at the Superstore, at the Rumble, exploring Indianapolis, getting all the content. And so, you know, take some, you lose some. Anyway, it's okay. It's just one episode. But I am very sad I'm not going to be able to cover this match because it seems like it's going to be a great one. So Kevin, one thing I got to say is Kevin is the ultimate troll. Okay. So he's wrestling Jimmy Uso, and he comes out in a Naomi t-shirt. Now, for those who may be a little newer to wrestling, Naomi and Jimmy Uso are married. They've been married for a decade and a half, maybe. I don't even know how long, but they've been married for a very long time. And so Kevin comes out in Jimmy's wife's shirt practically, and it is hysterical. Jimmy wants to lose it, but it was a great match. I think both of them absolutely delivered. This was a classic match between two veterans, and it was just the most perfect main event I could ask for the show. With what we got, I wouldn't pick anything else to be the main event. I really enjoyed this match. It was just a walk in the park. It was a breath of fresh air. It was just fun. It was classical wrestling, and I loved it. In the end, Kevin Owens won, and right after the bell rang, where the match ended, Kevin continues to attack Jimmy after the match. And then, of course, Cody Rhodes comes out for the save. And I don't even know why I just said it like I was mad. I was excited to see Cody, hello. But then Cody and Kevin inevitably start going at it in the ring, and we get a great preview for Saturday night's main event. And we get a great preview for the Royal Rumble. Now, into my overall thoughts of the show, I thought it was a very, very strong show. Ever since the New Year, SmackDown has progressively gotten better, which week to week, which I'm not really used to. SmackDown is, like I said earlier, notorious for being the worst show. And in my opinion, this week's SmackDown was way better than Raw, which is a sentence I'm not really used to saying, to be honest. My match of the night was Jimmy Uso versus Kevin Owens. Probably a shocker to some people. I thought this was an absolutely phenomenal match and just so entertaining. And like I said, classical wrestling. It was something where I was able to just kick back my feet, enjoy, and watch. It was just so iconic. Then I would say my segment of the night was the all women's segment with Tiffany, Rhea, literally all of them. One thing I loved about the Triple H era, like I mentioned earlier, is the intertwining storylines. I think it is so unique, so fun, and I mean it's a W for women's wrestling, isn't it? And it showcased all the amazing women that WWE has to offer, and it just got me even more hyped for the Royal Rumble next week and how good of a match we're about to have. Now, all in all, I would rate this show an 8 out of 10. That is an extremely higher rating than I rated last week's SmackDown, than this past week's Monday Night Raw. I mean, this show absolutely cooked. I thought it was a very strong show with super quality matches and segments. Very enjoyable television. Definitely was a great show right before Saturday night's main event. And next week, we can expect, hopefully we can expect the same type of quality show. Next week, Raw and SmackDown will both be the, as we call it, the going home show right before the Royal Rumble. So it should be good, hopefully. But yes, definitely a great build up. So excited. It's left me just happy and excited. So thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this episode of Champion the Passion. Leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed. Don't forget to follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms, and follow me at Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. Don't forget to champion your passions and celebrate the joy of what you love. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye!